Assalamu alaikum, children. Can you all hear me? How are y'all?
Fine.
Right. So how is everyone doing, children? Doing good?
Doing good, teacher. How about you?
Yeah, I'm good. Okay. So we'll start. So before we start the class, so if you have any doubts and if you wanted to clarify certain things with me, send the message in the chat to the co-host, right? So don't send it to the host at any moment because I will not be seeing it, right? Send it to the co-host. So therefore I can be seeing that. Okay. So today we will be starting like we are at the end of the lesson of continuity of life, where we will be talking about the male and the female reproductive system, right? Male and the female reproductive system, right? So this is a very important part of this lesson, right? This is a very important part of this lesson, right? Why it is important? Mostly you are questioned with the female reproductive system. They don't usually ask much question about the male reproductive system. So therefore, first of all, we'll focus on the female reproductive system, and at the latter part of the class, we will be talking about the male reproductive system. So that is how the class is going to happen. So first of all, we are going to study the female reproductive system, which is the most important part, and then we will be talking about the male reproductive system. So we'll start the class. Right. So when you talk about the male reproductive system, right? Before that, children, you know this is a biology lesson, right? This lesson is a biology lesson. So if it is a biology lesson, there is nothing to think logically, right? Where you don't have calculation or stuff like that. You have to think critically, nothing like that. So biology out of your syllabus, right? This is a very easy part to score marks, right? Note my words. Biology is one of the section where you can easily score marks out of your paper. So how do you score that? You memorize the parts which is given in the book. You memorize it. You understand what are they trying to tell you, and you write them on your own words. Even if you write it in your own words, you will get the marks. So therefore, there is a high probability of getting this question as related to biology correct, right? You can easily score marks in the biology paper, right? So what I'm trying to tell is, children, since there is a lot to memorize, I don't want you all to take a specific, you don't want to allocate a different time and sit and memorize, right? So what are we going to do today? We are going to memorize it on time. That is a type of my teaching. I make student to memorize on time in the class itself. So make sure you're also doing that. Whatever I say to understand, memorize it now itself, then please do that, right? So we'll start, right? We'll talk about the female reproductive system. Now, first of all, before we go into the structure and the functions, you know human. Now, animal reproduction means in your syllabus, you're going to talk about human, right? Human undergo what type of reproduction, children? Human undergo what type of reproduction?
Sexual reproduction.
Very good. They undergo sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction means where you need two individuals, where two matured organisms are involved in this type of a reproduction. What is meant by sexual reproduction? If you have one matured organism, they can undergo a sexual reproduction. But in human, we can't undergo a sexual reproduction. That means they need two matured organism, right? So that is going to be the male and the female, right? So that is going to be the male and the female. So you know that if it is a sexual reproduction, they should release gamete. Okay, they should release gamete. Gamete is a type of a cell. We generally call whatever it is like a cell and structure, small structures, we call it as gamete. So the gamete which is released by male, you call it as the sperm. And the gamete which is released by the female, you call it as the ovum. In plural, you call it as ova. Right? So this is a basic idea what you're going to learn for today. Right? We are going to talk about how this function and everything, how a fertilization occurs. So we are going to study about that. And what is meant by fertilization? When the sperm, you have the egg, there is a sperm. When they interact together, when they come together, that you call the process as the fertilization. Right, that is a process you call it as a fertilization. We'll study in detail, but then before we go into the lesson, I'm just giving you a brief idea on what we're going to learn in detail. Right, so now we are going to focus on the female reproductive system. We are going to focus on what? The female reproductive system. Now children, the structure of female reproductive system is important. Right, the structure of the female reproductive system. I'm going to focus on. Give me a minute. Right. Okay. So we are going to learn the structure of the female reproductive system, which is very important for your O-levels, right? So first of all, we start with the pair of ovary. Right, now when you take the female reproductive system, there is a pair of ovary. What is meant by a pair? You have two ovaries. In total, you call it as a pair of ovary. Okay, so attached to this ovary, there is a finger-like projection. There is a finger-like projection which connect to the muscular tube, where you call it as the fallopian tube. Right, on both the side, you have the finger-like projection, which you call it as the fimbria. Right, so attached to this fallopian tube, there is a body-like structure. There is a body-like structure, which you call it as the uterus. Right? So then, attached to the uterus, you have something called vagina. Right? Then, the opening part of that, you call it as the vulva. Right? Let me name them. Let me name it. This is an ovary. Right, this is another ovary. In total, you call it as a pair of ovary. Attached to that, you have a finger-like projection, which you call it as the fimbria, where it helps to transfer the ovum. Okay, where it will transfer the egg to the fallopian tube. This muscular tube, you call it as the fallopian tube. The structure is important. Study with me itself. Right? So on both the side, you have that. And the middle part, you call it as the uterus. And this part, the tract which the menstrual cycle takes place, that you call it as a vagina. And the opening part, you call it as the vulva. Right? Now, when you talk about this uterus, right? When you talk about this uterus, there are three parts of it. Okay, the up part which is connected to the fallopian tube, you call it as the fundus. Okay, the up part, the top part which is connected, which is closer to the fallopian tube, you call it as the fundus. And the middle part, you call it as the body. And the bottom part, you call it as the cervix. This is the structure of the female reproductive system. Look here, children. Let's revise it once again. You have a pair of ovary, which means on both the side you have two ovaries, right? Then attached to that, there is a finger-like projection which is used to transfer the egg. We will study that structure in a while. For now, remember there is a finger-like projection which you call it as the fimbria. Then that fimbria is connected to the fallopian tube. There is a muscular tube which is connected to the fimbria, right? So then you have a body part, which you call it as a uterus. So uterus consists of three parts, three portions. The up part which is connected, which is closely situated to the fallopian tube, you call it as a fundus. The middle part you call it as the body, and the below part you call it as the cervix. And the tract the opening tract, you call it as the vagina. The opening part to the environment, you call it as the vulva. Right? Did you understand the structure? Understood the structure, children? Yes?
Yes, miss.
Okay. Right. So this is the structure that you have to remember. You have to memorize. No excuse. You have to know this. Right? Why is that, children? When you take MCQ, they can ask you what is A. They can ask this as what is A, what is B. So they can ask you that. So therefore, this is an important structure that you have to remember under your O-level syllabus. Right? Okay. So then, you know the structure, right? Now what are we going to study is the menstrual cycle. That is something that take place in the female reproductive system, right? The menstrual cycle, we are going to talk about it. Such an important thing, not only for your it's not only for your syllabus in order to score well in O level, but as a human you have to know this. Even you're a girl or a boy, doesn't matter, but you have to know about this, where you will start to respect a woman. If you are a boy, you will start to respect a woman. The pain that she undergoes, you will understand it. And if you are a girl, you can easily understand what is happening inside your body. So that is why I thought of doing this as a free session where everyone can learn about this. Okay. Now listen, village children. When you talk about the menstrual cycle, first of all, what is a menstrual cycle? You know what is fertilization. As I told you, you know what is fertilization. What is mean by fertilization? When the egg and the sperm get interacted, when they come together, that process you call it as fertilization, right? What if the sperm did not meet the egg? What if the sperm did not meet the ovum? That you call it as a menstrual cycle. In simple terms, if the sperm is not there, if they did not meet the egg, okay, if the sperm did not interact with the egg, so whatever happens after that, you call it as a menstrual cycle. Right? Now, when you take the menstrual cycle, that there are two changes that occur. Okay, there are two types of changes that occur. One is the changes that happen in the ovary. One is the changes that happen in the ovary. And the other one, the changes that happen in the uterus. The changes that happen in the uterus. Right? Now, first of all, we are going to study the changes that occur in the ovary. Right? So, let me extend this ovary a bit so then I can explain you. Okay? Right. So now when you are a girl, right? When a girl baby is born, right? When a girl baby is born, what is going to happen? When a girl baby is born, they will start to produce ova. That means even the baby is a fetus inside the mother's womb, inside the mother's uterus, the baby will start to produce egg. But they are not going to be matured and there's not such process is going to happen, right? So when the baby is born, the baby will have around 200,000 eggs to 400,000 eggs, right? But when it reaches to the puberty, at the age of puberty, which is around 13 to 15, that sort of age, a girl, right? So when they reaches the puberty, what will happen? They are called, now these are called as a primary follicle. Okay, the immatured egg, you call it as what? Primary follicle. You call it as primary follicle, right? Now, you have the primary follicle here, right? Let me mark it as this. These are the primary follicle, right? So, when the primary follicles are there, what will happen? When it is reaching the puberty. Now, this is the first time that you are going to get the menstruation, right? This is the first time a girl is going to get the menstruation. This is the process, how it happens. There is a primary follicle present inside the ovary where the immatured eggs. So when it is wanted to become matured, do you know the pituitary gland? There is a gland where it is near to the brain. Okay, this part you call it as a pituitary gland. Pituitary gland is a gland which will secrete hormone. Normally, when you hear the word gland, remember it is going to secrete hormones. Right? Pituitary gland, what will it do? It will secrete a hormone called SFH. Right? It will secrete a hormone called SFH. That means stimulating follicular hormone. FSH. Okay, follicular stimulating hormone. So do you need the detailed term? No, you can remember the abbreviation FSH, right? So the hormone will be secreted to the pituitary, from the pituitary gland to the primary follicle. What will happen when the hormone is released? This will grow. The primary follicular will grow and they will become something called the Graafian follicle. That you call it as the Graafian follicle. So in order to grow from primary follicle to Graafian follicle, it will take 14 days. How many days? 14 days. In order to grow the primary follicle to a Graafian follicle, it will take 14 days. And what will happen, children? At this time, they will release a hormone. The ovary will release a hormone called estrogen. Okay, they will release a hormone called estrogen, right? So what is this? Now this is the phase, the initial phase. The initial phase, you call it as the follicular phase. Whatever it is happening here, that you call it as the first phase under the changes of ovary, that you call it as the follicular phase. That you call it as what? Follicular phase, right? Now let's revise the follicular phase once again. You have the primary follicle inside the ovary. What is meant by the primary follicle? The immatured ovum. Okay, the immatured ova, you call it as a primary follicle. Then what is going to happen when the girl baby, not the girl baby, when the girl is nearly it is attaining to the puberty, the pituitary gland will secrete a hormone called FSH. Okay, follicular stimulating hormone, right? It will release this hormone. When it releases the hormone, it will grow and it will turn to a Graafian follicle, right? It will grow bigger. That you call it as a Graafian follicle. In order to grow from primary follicle to Graafian follicle, it will take 14 days. Right? In order to grow from primary follicle to a Graafian follicle, it will take 14 days. Right? While it is growing, the hormone, a hormone which is specially found in the female reproduction, right, which is normally found in the females, that you call it as the estrogen, will be secreted, right? That is the change that happened, the first change that happened in the ovary, right? Under menstrual cycle, under the changes of ovary, there is a phase called follicular phase, which will happen for 14 days. This is the thing that will happen. Right? So the next phase, once the Graafian follicle is grown, okay? Once the Graafian follicle is grown, what is going to happen? The next phase starts. The next phase will start, right? So what will happen in the next phase? The next phase you call it as the luteal phase. The next phase you call it as the luteal phase. So what will happen in the luteal phase? Now this is the final phase that will happen in the ovary. This is the initial phase and this is the final phase. So let's see what happens in the final phase. Right? So if the fertilization does not occur, right? Now what are you going to study about? The fertilization does not occur, right? If the fertilization does not occur, all these changes will happen. If it occurs, the girl will be pregnant. Right? If she is not pregnant, every month she will undergo these changes. Right? So now in the luteal phase, which is the final phase, what is going to happen? The egg will be released out. From the Graafian follicle, what will happen? The egg will be released and this egg will be transported to the fallopian tube. Right? Now look here. The egg is here and it will be sent to the fallopian tube. Right? Through what? Through the Fimbria. For this purpose only, fimbria is there. In order to transfer the egg to the fallopian tube. In order to transfer the egg to the fallopian tube. So that is why we have something called a structure called fimbria. In order to transfer the egg to the fallopian tube. Right? Now once the egg is gone, the remaining part is there, right? That you call it as the corpus luteal. Okay, a structure that you call it as the corpus albicans and corpus luteal. Right? First of all, it will form corpus. Right? First of all, it will form corpus luteum, and later the small remaining part you call it as a corpus albicans. Corpus albicans. Right? So what will happen after some time? These two will be faded off. These two will be faded off. Right? What will happen? These two parts will be faded off. Right? Now the egg is there, right? Now the egg is sent to the fallopian tube. That is the change that occur in the luteal phase. Now once the egg is transported to the fallopian tube, it will start secreting another hormone called progesterone. It will start secreting a hormone called progesterone. So the hormone that is present in the female, which is related to female reproductive system, is estrogen and progesterone. Right? So both the hormone is secreted. Then those are the changes that take place in the ovary. Right? Under menstrual cycle, that is the changes that will take place under ovary. Right? So let's revise the two phase once again. So in order to, once the egg is released, the egg is transported, and the corpus luteum and the corpus albicans is formed, it will take 14 days. It will take how many days? 14 days. Right? For the first phase, it is 14 days, and the second phase is also 14 days, totally 28 days. Right? So now let's revise it once again. Make sure you are also revising it, and don't keep it for another day to study, children. That is just a waste of time. You are here to study. Don't just stare at the screen and wait. Okay, I'll take another day to study. No, it's just a waste of time. Why are you wasting your time? You are here to learn it and finish it off. Right? And there is no any critical idea that you have to develop and nothing. Just the same thing which you know. Right? The same thing which you if you are a girl, you might be feeling it. If you are a boy, obviously you might be knowing because you have mother, sister, and someone like that. Right? So let's revise it once again before we go to the next part. Right? So now you have the ovary, right? You have two pairs of ovary. Now we are talking about the menstrual cycle. Right? We are talking about menstrual cycle. Once the menstrual cycle is occurring, the changes, there are two types of changes that will occur. One, the changes in the ovary and the changes in the uterus. Changes in ovary, changes in uterus. Right? Then we were talking about the changes that occur in the ovary. That is what we were discussing so far. Right? So that is what we discussed so far. Right? So the first phase, that means the first starting changes that occur in the ovary, you call it as the follicular phase. Right? What is happening in the follicular phase? You know, if you are a girl baby or if a girl baby is there, the baby when it is inside the mother's womb as 3 months old, they will start to produce egg. But those are immature. They are immature. When the baby is born, it will have around 200,000 to 400,000 primary follicle. Right? So when the baby is near to attain the puberty, there is going to be one which is going to grow due to the presence of the hormone which is secreted by the pituitary gland, which you call it as the FSH. The hormone is secreted. Therefore, the primary follicle will start to grow. Right? When they start to grow, they will form another type of a structure. You call it as a Graafian follicle. In order to grow from a primary follicle to a Graafian follicle, it will take 14 days. During these 14 days, this will start to release a hormone which you call it as the estrogen. Right? It will secrete a hormone called estrogen. Right? So when the primary follicle is there, right, that is what will happen in the follicular phase. It will take 14 days. Follicular phase will take 14 days, right? So then we talk about the latter part. Okay, the final phase, which you called as the luteal phase. So what will happen in the luteal phase? Since the Graafian follicle is grown up, right, the egg will be released. It will release the egg out, right? It will release the egg out. This egg will be transported to the fallopian tube by the fimbria. It will transport the egg to the fallopian tube by fimbria, right? So then you have the remaining part. Right now the egg is sent. This small tiny dot, that is the egg, right? The remaining part is there, right? That will turn the remaining part, the first stage of the remaining part, you called as a corpus luteum, right? So that will start to fade little by little and they will form corpus albicanus, right? So what will happen to them? They will fade off. Okay, they will be disrupted and no structure will be present after that, right? So when the egg is released and when the luteal phase is occurring, they will start to produce a hormone called progesterone, right? In order to release and it is transported, the luteal phase will take 14 days. Totally, the changes that to happen in the ovary will take 28 days. Did you understand what is happening in the ovary, the changes? Anyone has a doubt? No, it will not happen. Ovum will not stay at place. Okay, that is called a cycle. Every month, whatever it happens, it will start this process. If the sperm comes interacting with the egg, this process will not take place. But the egg will start to move. If they will wait for some time they will wait until a sperm come and interact. But if it not happen, with such disappointment, they will start to process this menstrual cycle. So that is not going to happen. Okay, the egg will not stay at one place. It will grow. At a point, it will come out. Yeah, the egg will be released. But that is microscopic. You can't see from your naked eye. Microscopic means where you can see using only the microscope. You can't see them. That will be disrupted. Now these are tiny cells where you can see, right? You can't actually see this, right? They are tiny small parts where we will study the next part. It will come out, sometimes it might come out with that. Now imagine when a mother is pregnant. Okay, when a mother is pregnant, the stomach area will be enlarged. Right? When the baby is taken out, will she for the whole lifetime, will she have that size of her stomach? No. Later on, it will become the normal size. How is it happening? Now, when it is enlarged, the cell division is high. There is a cell growth. But after that, the grown cell will be dying. They will be disrupted. Something similarly, this corpus luteum and the corpus albicans are something like a waste. You don't need that anymore. Therefore, they will divide the cell and they will be disrupted. And the next month, they will occur the same. That you call it as a cycle. That is why they name it as a menstrual cycle. Okay. Okay, you want me to explain the ovary, the changes that happen in ovary once again, slowly? Yeah, I'll go slowly, understand, right? So, why I'm doing this? In order to make you memorize, understand the process. This entire process should flow in your brain in a while, right? Listen once again, right? Now, this is the female reproductive structure. Right? So what will happen when a girl baby is born? When she is 3 months old inside the mother's womb, she will start to produce egg, right? So that you call it as a primary follicle, right? You will have around 200,000 to 400,000 ovum, right? When the girl baby is nearly going to attain the puberty, you have the primary follicle, right? So this primary follicle will start to grow by the help of the hormone which is secreted by the pituitary gland, which you call it as the FSH. Okay, follicular stimulating hormone. You don't have to write the entire name. If you write the abbreviation, that is enough. They don't check for the full name, full term. Right. So this hormone will start to help to grow the primary follicle, and at the end of the day, they will develop as a Graafian follicle. They will develop as a Graafian follicle. In order to develop the primary follicle to a Graafian follicle, it will take 14 days. During these 14 days, it will start to secrete a hormone called estrogen, right? That is what will happen in the follicular phase. That is the initiating phase, right? So in the latter part, now the Graafian follicle is grown. What will happen? It will start to release an egg. Okay, it will start to release an egg. This minute dot is there. That is an egg inside the Graafian follicle. So once it is released, that is the egg, right? This egg will be transported to the fallopian tube by the fimbria. This egg will be transported to the fallopian tube by the fimbria, right? Then once the egg is gone, you have the remaining part, like the remaining structure, that you call it as a corpus luteum, right? After some time, it will start to fade and some disruptions that you call it as the albiconus, corpus albiconus. So these two structures will fade off. That means they will be disrupted. The cells can be like, it can be divided, and some cell can be like, they will come out of the cell division and some process will happen, right? So this part is done. Then while the egg is transporting, they will release a hormone called progesterone. So in order to happen this process, it will take 14 days, that you call it as the luteal phase. Understood now? Clear? Anyone has a doubt? All good? Yeah, right. Now what are we going to study is the changes that is happening in the uterus, right? We are done with the ovary, right? Now the egg is sent to the fallopian tube. Now we are going to talk about what? The changes that happen in the uterus, right? When you talk about the changes that happen in the uterus, there are three types of changes. Okay, the changes that happen in the uterus, there are three types. Okay, three changes, three stages, right? So the first stage you call it as a menstrual phase. Okay, the first phase you call it as the menstrual phase. Then the second phase you call it as a proliferating phase. Okay, proliferation phase. Then the third phase you call it as a secretory phase. Okay, the third phase you call it as a secretory phase. Now we are going to talk about the structure that take place, the changes that take place in the ovary, not the ovary, the uterus. Okay, so wait, I'm looking for the chats. 1 minute. Estrogen is removed. It is secreted in the luteal phase. Progesterone is secreted in the estrogen is secreted in the follicular phase and progesterone is secreted in the luteal phase. Right? Okay. Right. Now look here, children. Now we're going to talk about the changes that take place in the uterus. Right? Now let me erase these parts so then I can draw. Right. So now children, when you take the uterus, you have the uterus, right? Okay. So now when you take the uterus, in the uterus, there is a lining. There is a lining. Okay. There is a lining. That means the wall. You call it as a wall of uterus. Right. Now, when the egg is sent to the fallopian tube, you know that from the luteal phase, the egg is transported to the what? Fallopian tube. Now, this is the egg. Right. Now, when a sperm gets entered through the vagina and it travels through the ovary, and if they reach the egg, right? If the sperm reaches the egg, they will process the fertilization. Fertilization will take place. But what if this does not come? What if the sperm does not enter? Right? So that is a change that will happen in the uterus. After that only the changes that will happen in uterus. And remember, the fertilization process will start from the fallopian tube. Okay, since the egg is here, the sperm should enter. If they process, then the fertilization process will take place. The girl will be pregnant. But every month the girl does not get pregnant, right? So there should be some other options as well. So the other option is the changes that happen in the uterus, right? So the first change, you call it as a menstrual phase, right? Now let me tell you what is going to happen in the menstrual phase. Right, that is the initial phase. That is the initial phase. If the fertilization does not take place, the progesterone level will decrease. Now that is the first thing that will happen in the menstrual phase. What is going to happen? The progesterone level is going to decrease. Right? Now what is going to happen? When the progesterone level decreases, the wall will be tearing it and the egg will come out. Okay, by pulling the wall of the uterus, the lining of the uterine, the egg will come out through the vagina. That you call it as a menstruation. That you call it as the menstruation. What is menstruation, children? The tearing of the uterus wall and the egg comes out through the vagina. That you call it as the menstruation, right? That you call it as the menstruation, right? So that is why during menstruation, women struggle a lot. Imagine you are pulling someone's skin out. How painful it is. So something similar that happens inside the body. Something very similar that happens inside the body, right? This wall is the skin. Imagine this wall is the skin. You're tearing it and the blood is coming out. That is why you bleed. The bleeding, you call it as a menstruation. So imagine every month a woman face this. So you have to be very respectable to them, right? So after at least hearing my voice or like what I am trying to tell, so make sure you are not always being disgraceful, like talking back to your mother. So that is somewhat like you have to think at what position they are. Right, you have to be very responsible for someone's happiness. You should not like you should not get spoil their mood actually, right? So a life lesson actually, you have to be very responsible. If you are a male, oh my god, you have such bigger responsibility to take care the emotion of a female. Okay, to care the emotion, value the emotion of a female, right? So that is a different story. Right, now let's come back to the lesson. Right, what is going to happen in the menstrual phase? The first of all, what is going to happen? The progesterone level will decrease. Right, the progesterone level will decrease. Then what is going to happen? The egg will come out, which means the ovum will come out by tearing the wall of uterus. That you call it as the menstruation flow. That you call it as the menstruation flow, or you call it as a menstrual flow. Right, so this menstrual flow will last for 4 days normally, right? Average. If you are a normal, if you have a proper cycle without a regular cycle and like everything is going good, you will bleed for 4 days. That is going to be the average normally. There are some people who bleed for more than 15 days. They are like where they have to consult a doctor, right? That is a different story. But generally, a healthy person where has a normal menstrual cycle, they will bleed for 4 days. That you call it as a menstrual flow. That is what will happen in the menstrual phase. With the term itself, you can understand what I am going to study, right? That you call it as a menstrual phase. Right, now when it is bleeding and everything, the wall is like teared and they are like broken out, they should be repaired, right? So in order to repair that stage, you call it as the proliferational phase. That phase, you call it as the proliferational phase. That is the second phase that is going to act in the uterus. Okay, what is going to happen? In order to rebuild the broken wall of the uterus, progesterone come in, not progesterone, estrogen will come in contact. Estrogen will come in contact with the broken wall of the uterus. So therefore, they will start to rebuild it. They will start to rebuild this. Why are they rebuilding, children? Because next month also, this should be broken down, right? So in order to broken down, it should be in a good condition. right? So this will keep on repeating. Once the progesterone level decreases, the egg comes out, then again the estrogen will act and they will start to rebuild. This will happen continuously until the sperm enter and meet the egg. Then only it will start to stop. Then only it will start to stop, unless the same process will happen every month, right? So then once the new cells, the estrogen will help to grow new cells in the layer, which means the wall of uterus. So that is what is going to happen for 10 days. That is going to happen for how many days? 10 days. That means proliferational phase will take place for 10 days. The menstrual phase will take place for 4 days. This is for 10 days and the menstrual phase is for 4 days. Right? Then the secretory phase. We are going to talk about the last phase that you called as the secretory phase. What is going to happen? This is the final phase, right? So again, progesterone will come in track. Okay, progesterone will start to come in track. Progesterone. Why is that? Now progesterone is coming in order to thicken the wall. In order to thicken the wall and have a good flow of blood supply, because every month this should happen, right? Okay, progesterone will do that work. Progesterone will do that work. So for that they will take 14 days. For that they will take 14 days. So this is the menstrual cycle, right? Now after secretory phase, what is going to happen? The next month, the changes that will start to happen in the ovary, right? The primary follicle will break down, Graafian follicle will happen, they will release the egg. So again, this egg will be sent to the fallopian tube and the same process will be repeating until as sperm get interacted with the egg in the fallopian tube. Then the fertilization process will occur, right? Understood? Got an idea? We'll revise it once again. First of all, tell me, did you get an idea of what you learned for now? Clear, children?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll explain the menstrual phase once again. Right? Look here. What is menstrual phase? Now, from the changes that happen in the ovary, the egg is transported to the fallopian tube. Right? So, in the fallopian tube, the egg will be sent to the uterus. Right? So, while the egg is coming out, the egg should be released out. Right? So, while it is coming, it will start to pull the wall of uterus and bleed. The blood you get, that is the wall of uterus. Do you see the egg? No. Why? It is a microscopic. You can't see the microscopic thing, right? So microscopic like organism or structures, you should use a microscope, right? So they will every month they are releasing in your blood flow. So the blood flow which you get, right, which is the wall of uterus tear and come out, that you call as a menstruational flow or the menstrual flow, right? That will last for 4 days. If you are a normal person where you have a proper regular cycle, if your hormones are balanced, it will last for 4 days generally, an average. Okay. So then what is going to happen? Before now starting this menstruational phase, why it is happening? Because the progesterone level will decrease, right? Progesterone level will decrease. Therefore, only this phase will take place, right? So once this is done, once the flow is happened, the broken wall is there, right? So that should be rebuilt once again, because the next month cycle should happen, right? So what is going to act? Estrogen will come in trunk. Estrogen will come in trunk, right? So the estrogen will help to rebuild the wall. Estrogen will help to rebuild the wall. So that phase where the rebuilding work, the renovation work done in the uterus, that you call as the proliferational phase, which will happen for 10 days, right? The proliferational phase will take place for 10 days. Then what is going to happen? In order to thicken the wall and to have a good supply, good blood supply, progesterone will come in contact. Progesterone will start to act on it. So that will last for 14 days. They will secrete progesterone to build and to make a nice beautiful wall It will take 14 days. That phase you call it as the secretory phase. Understood? So these are the 3 changes that happen in the uterus in the menstrual cycle. Understood? Any doubt? Clear? Anyone has a doubt? Come on, children, you all have to talk to me. There should be interaction. If not, I will feel bored. Right? You all have to talk to me. That is where you will learn. So when you talk, when you open your mouth and speak and you learn, you know, there's a scientific research. Let me come out of the lesson and tell you something important, right? When you speak louder, right? I'm not telling like when you talk with someone, not that. When you study, right? You open up your mouth and when you start studying louder, when you increase your volume and study, there will be 3 organs will be active, right? There are going to be how many organs active? 3 organs. One is your eye. Why is that? You are seeing something from your eye. Therefore, eye will be active, right? You speak. Your mouth is active, right? Then you hear, right? What you speak, you hear. Your ear is active. So when 3 organs are active, it will store better in your brain. That is a scientific research. Use that type of a study method, right? So the how I usually study while I was doing my O-levels, how I used to study is I used to teach, right? To whom? To the chair, to the table at my home. So I used to do that. I don't care whoever it is. I don't actually bother about what is happening around. I used to start to teach aloud, right? I used to talk. As a teacher, I used to talk, right? So that was a way of study, right? That was something later on I got to know that is a scientific research also says the same. Where when you speak aloud, when you study by talking and explaining stuff to yourself, you will have a better memory power. So try that. That is truth because with experience I'm telling that. Yeah, the proliferational phase is the renovation phase. In simple term, if I want to tell you, that is a renovation phase. Now in the menstrual phase, what is happening? The wall of uterus is broken down, right? It is tearing and it is coming. The blood flow is there. Everything it is like destroyed, right? It's like destroyed, right? In order to rebuild that, because every month there is going to be a cycle happening, right? In order to rebuild that, estrogen will come in contact. So therefore, they will start to build the wall. They will start to rebuild it. So that will last for 10 days. That will last for 10 days, right? Then in the secretory phase, what will happen? The one step above it, right? Progesterone will come in contact again to rebuild, to stronger and to make thicker the wall and to have a good blood supply. The progesterone will come in contact. That will last for 14 days. That is a secretory phase. Proliferation phase means in simple term you can remember as a renovation phase or the rebuild, but don't write it in the exam, right? Write it as proliferational phase. But I'm telling you, if you have to have a proper idea like key points, you can remember as rebuilding phase, something like that, but don't write it in the exam. Okay, third stage, yeah. So third stage, what is happening now? It is rebuild, right? Now the wall is something like this. Estrogen is building a wall, right? Right. Now this is what happened in the second stage. In the third stage, you are going to make this more stronger, thicker, right? You're going to make it more thicker. So that is going to happen by the progesterone. That is what will happen in the secretory phase. They will thicken the wall of uterus and they will have a good blood supply by the progesterone. That is the secretory phase. Understood? Any doubt? Second secretory phase. Okay, listen. That is not that hard as you think. Listen, right? So you have now this wall is broken down in the menstrual phase and the proliferation phase. What is going to happen? They will just start to build it. Okay, the building process happen by the estrogen, that is the proliferational phase. In the secretory phase, what is going to happen is progesterone is going to come in contact. When progesterone is in contact, they will help to make the wall thicker. They will help to make the wall thicker, right? And to have a good blood supply. So that is the secretory phase, which will happen for 14 days. Understood? Clear? Anyone has a doubt? Yeah, I will be teaching you the male reproduction in a while. Right? Once we are done with the female reproduction, we will be talking about the male. Because male is not that actually important, but when you are a grade 10 student, it is important because in your term exam, they can ask you, right? But they don't actually ask the structure and a detailed idea. But female reproductive system is a must to learn. Very important topic to learn. Not only for your exam, for your life as well. Even you're a girl or a boy, you have to learn it. Okay, so I had a clear idea. Anyone has a doubt? So the entire menstrual cycle should start to flow in your brain now. What is happening? All the steps, as for my explanation, everything should be clear. Right. Okay, is everyone satisfied by studying the menstrual cycle? All done? Yeah. Okay. So then what we have next to study, right? So now we are going to talk about children. Okay, we are going to talk about what? If a sperm comes in contact. If a sperm comes in contact, what is going to happen? They will start to produce a baby. That is going to be the first step of starting to produce a baby, right? Now you have the egg, you have a sperm. When they come in contact, fertilizer process will happen. That process, that the interaction between those two gametes, that process you call it as the fertilization, right? So what is called, there's something called implantation. Okay, implantation or interplantation, right? You call it as that, right? Now what is going to happen when the fertilized egg is there? Okay, the fertilized egg. Now after this, there is an egg will be produced. That egg you call it as the zygote. That egg you call it as what? Zygote. That is the first cell, right? When these two get interacted, a cell will be formed that you call it as the zygote. That is the first cell of the baby. That is the first cell of the baby, right? Then what is going to happen while it is rolling in the uterus? Okay, now from the fallopian tube, it will start to come to the uterus, right? So this is, I'm talking about the not about the menstrual cycle. Now when the sperm and the ovum get interacted, what is happening only now I'm talking, right? For a while, forget about the menstrual cycle and consider now what we are studying, right? So what is going to happen when these two is processed? A fertilized ovum is there, right? So that will be developed as the zygote, which is the first cell of the baby. That will roll from the fallopian tube and locate in the uterus. They will be present in the uterus, right? So what will happen? Little by little, the next stage of the cell of the zygote, you call it as the morula, right? The next stage, the developed one, a bit developed, that you call it as what? Morula, right? So the next one you call it as the blastula, right? Zygote, morula, blastula, right? So that you call it as the implantation, right? Where it will start to come and stay in the uterus and everything, that you call it as the implantation, right? So that is what you have to know. That is what you have to know. Understood, children?
Yes.
So when the fertilization happens, that is the only part that you have to know. Nothing much, right? You're not going to study in detail like as a A-level student. You're just an O-level student. Some knowledge is important, right? Then, now when the baby is developed, right? You normally do not call the baby present in the uterus. So the general name for uterus is womb. right? Baby is not in the stomach, baby is inside the womb. That's a very like a misunderstanding term. It is not inside the tummy, it's not inside the stomach. It is actually inside the uterus. The baby will form in the uterus. Baby will be growing in the uterus. The normal term, the general term, you call it as a womb, right? You tell womb, that is the uterus, right? So when the baby is inside the uterus, you don't call it as a baby. You call it as the fetus. You call it as what? Fetus. Okay, so next time when someone comes and tell you a girl is pregnant and she has a baby inside her stomach, inside her uterus or inside her womb, you correct them, that is not a baby, that is a fetus. Acknowledge people, that is good to you, right? That is really good to you, right? What do you want me to explain, Maria? What do you want me to explain? Fertilization. Fertilization means now you have the egg, right? A matured egg. The matured egg means what? The female gamete, right? The female gamete, right? So sperm is the male gamete. Sperm is the male gamete. Now you know that in humans, they undergo sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction means what? There should be two matured organisms. There should be two gametes. Then only the sexual reproduction will happen. So the term that you tell for the process where the female gamete and the male gamete get interacts, you call that as a fertilization. Understood? Right. So we'll move to the next one. Right. So when the baby is like inside the mother's womb, when the fetus is inside the mother's womb, what is going to happen? Right. So there are some substance that can be transported from the mother to the baby. That means the fetus. This is the mother. This is the baby. Right. So the substance that can be transported, all the substance that is transported from the mother to the baby by the umbilical cord. Okay, there is a cord which you called as the umbilical cord, right? So that is a cord, okay, where the mother will be transporting all the substance, whatever it is needed through this cord to the baby. Right. So what are the substance that can be transported? You have to know that as well, right? What are the substance that can be transported from the mother to the baby, right? So the first thing which can be transported is oxygen. Okay, oxygen is important for the growth of the baby, right? The baby should survive, right? So oxygen. Nutrients, the food they now actually mother transport food to the baby. They say you have a baby inside your tummy. Okay, you have to eat, like her share as well. But actually, does that happen? Does the baby eat food inside the mother's womb? No. The mother eats, it will mix with blood. After all the digestion, the nutrients will be absorbed to the blood. The blood is going to be transported, like the nutrients will be transported to the baby from the food what you eat. The mother eats, the baby is going to get the nutrients, not the food, not the share. Okay, not the share of the food she's going to have it. She's going to have it only the nutrients that is present in the food, right? One is that oxygen and nutrients, right? Then, like pathogens, drugs, the medicine where mother drinks, like they bring this iron and every sort of a thing, medicines, pathogens. Then you can tell what else? Pathogens and what did I miss? Oxygen, nutrients, pathogen, drugs, the medicine, right? Not the drug that is like illegal, not that. Okay. So that is a drug where the mother drinks, like when she's pregnant, normally mother drinks certain medicines and those stuffs. So in order to baby get that, from the umbilical cord, it is being transported. So there are some substance where that cannot be transported. Right. Now, actually, there are some substance where from the baby to the mother it is transported. Right. There are some substance where from the baby, it is transported to the mother. So those substances are the excretory material. Okay, the substances are what? Excretory materials, the wastage. Right, it is sent to the mother from the baby. Right. So then carbon dioxide. Okay, the baby takes in the oxygen, right? Then it should release the carbon dioxide, right? So it sends back the carbon dioxide. So at any moment, the mother or the fetus will not exchange one thing, right? The fetus, from the fetus to the mother, a substance will not exchange. That is the blood. Blood will not be exchanged from the baby to the mother. Understood the lesson? This is what you have to remember under female reproductive system mainly, right? So according to the analysis and everything, this is what you have to know, right? So let's talk about once again what if the fertilization take place, right? So once the fertilized egg, okay, after the male and the female gamete interacts, a fertilized egg will be formed. So that egg will develop as a cell. That egg will develop as a cell, which is the first cell. You call it as the zygote, right? This is the zygote, right? Then the zygote will develop as a the development of zygote, you call it as the morula. So the development of morula, you call it as the blastula, right? So that is the thing that you have to know. Then what is going to happen? You have to know what are the substances that can be transferred and how it is transferred and what should not be transferred and everything, right? From the mother to the fetus, the substances are transported by the umbilical cord. What is the cord? Umbilical cord. Okay, so what are the substances that is transported from the mother to the baby? That is oxygen, nutrients, pathogens, drugs. So these type of substance will be transported from the mother to the fetus, right? Then the substance that is transported from the baby to the mother is the excretory materials or the carbon dioxide. Then there is a substance which will not transport from the baby to the mother. That is the only thing, that is the blood. Blood will be transported from the baby to the mother. Understood? Break? It's just a 2-hour class, darling. With that itself, break means okay. I'll give you a time to do the tute. So at that time you can have a small break. Actually, I am the one who is tired over here. Isn't that right? So we'll do the tute. So if anyone wants the tute, can you leave a message to my WhatsApp number? I'll send it to you. If anyone needs the tute, quickly send a message. I'll write the number over here. This is my number. Leave a message. I'll quickly send you the tute. Right? Okay. So children, make sure you're memorizing this and you're not forgetting this. And that is very important, right? This lesson is such an important lesson. So make sure you're not forgetting. So have I shared the screen? So the theory class students will have the tute, right? So the people who are here for the free seminar will be needing the tute. Right? I'll first give you the one and then I'll tell you. Okay. So we are going to talk about the female reproduction. Right? The structure is already given, so you don't have to worry about it. Right? So now we are going to mark. Oh, the A and B is not given, right? Give me a minute, children. I'll send you the tute. Wait a minute. Send your messages. I'll quickly reply. Give me a second. Right. The A. A, B, C, D. Okay, children, I write it on the board. Look here. A, because I have not named it. I don't know how did I miss it. Right? Look here, look here. Right? A is ovary. They're asking about the main part. Describe. They're asking you to describe, right? Give me a minute. A is ovary, right? B is what is going to be the B? Fimbria. C is fallopian tube. And D is uterus. Right? So then that's all. Yeah. So you have to talk about this. A is ovary, B is uterus, no, B is fimbria, C is fallopian tube, and D is uterus. You have to actually talk about their but as I explained you why the structure is present. You have to tell that and complete the whole part of the female reproduction. I think until here, right? So when you're done with the first part, tell me, I'll show the remaining, right? So give me a minute. I'll send all the tudes to the people who asked me. 1 second. 1 minute, 1 minute. I'll quickly send it. So some children have sent me messages to this as well. Give me some time, few minutes. Right. Jacob, this is a tude of what we discussed, which I sent you, which I posted you, right? So that is the tude. So the last part of continuity of life. Yeah. 1 minute, children. I'll quickly send it. Children, I'll send it to the group, the main WhatsApp group, so it's easy, so then everyone can be accessed with that, right? Now I'm sending to the group, just look for it, right? Okay, so the dude is sent. Right? So is there anyone who did not see that? So anyone who is not in the group and did not get the tude, leave a message to my number itself. I'll send it. So there are some children, they might be not in the group. And children, once the session is over, just drop me a feedback to my number, to the number which I wrote it on the board. So if possible, send me a feedback so that I can see whether you all have understood the lesson or not. So that I can be satisfied of my work. All right. Start doing the questions. So do the questions, whatever it is on the, like, start from 43. Do question from 43 to 43 to 51. 43 to 51, I will tell you the process of childbirth, right? So make sure that everyone is writing the same. I'll tell you in a while. For now, do the question from 43 to 51. Children, make sure you are writing what is given in the tute, right? So that is where you will understand whether actually you understood the lesson or not when you write it, right? So this is a way to learn. So don't think this is a free session. Okay, why should I be care about, why should I bother about it? No, right? You're here to learn, right? So make sure you do it. Yeah, so let me write it over here. 1 minute, I'll write it. What happened? Give me a minute. Stop. A minute. It got stuck. Can you see the screen now? Do it, children. Okay, I want you all to try the question. That is where you will learn actually, right? So make sure you do it. Yeah, we have started the grade 11 paper class. The grade 10 paper class is over. We have we have just started the grade 11 paper class. We are working on it. We have started the lesson mixtures. Yeah. So on Wednesdays. Do it, children. I want you all to try. I'm saying again and again, this is very important part. So make sure you follow the guidance properly and you learn it. Okay, that is what I want at the end of the day. Yes, Zainab, what do you want? Hello, you have sent me a hello. Why is that? Is it for you? Is it for you, Zainab? Okay. So which is on Tuesday in the sense? Mm, okay. So if it on Tuesday. Mm, so what do you want me to do in that? Any idea? Yeah, we are starting electromagnetism tomorrow. Yes. Yeah, obviously we can't cover the lesson in one day. Probably it will take around 3 weeks because that's a long lesson and proper understanding is needed. So it's not possible to do it in one day. So I'm asking if such a class is happening, what do you want me to do in that? There should be a plan, right? Do you mean you want the grade 10 lesson or mm, so probably like you can practice, like if you're a grade 11 student you can start practicing the questions that for sure that they will be asking in your paper, like electrochemistry is one of the best example for that, and unit 6 biological process, that is very important. They ask any type of a system in every year of paper, so you can guarantee certain lessons like that, can expect that. So like electrochemistry heat lesson they used to ask. Apart from that, probably from grade 10 there are certain lessons, but as I told you, motion in a straight line from grade 10, and there are some lessons. So what do you want me to do? Like you should have a proper idea, right? So what sort of a lesson that you wanted me to do and stuffs like that? So message in WhatsApp. So I think once the class is over, we'll discuss about it. Send a message. I'll consider about it. Ashar, do you have anything to tell? You have sent me a hi. Do you have anything to tell me? Hopefully, I'm pronouncing your names properly. Do it, children. I want you all to do it. Write everything on your own. Everything is taught to you. Nothing is new. And for the theory class student, probably next week there will be the exam for the grade 10, as I told you, from I think unit 10. Yeah. From unit 10 to 14, probably you will have an exam next week, next Friday. Get ready. Once you all are done, leave a message in the chat so then I will be knowing that you all have done the work. But I want everyone to do. Yeah, probably we will be having a 1 month seminar, like not actually 1 month, more than 5 weeks seminar to cover the entire grade 10 physics lessons. So because most of the children, when we are having this chemistry night session, most of the children were requesting me to do a physics lesson, like a physics part where I will be teaching the theory and then we will be discussing the question, something related to that. So probably we will be starting that maybe in the 3rd week of September. So yeah, inshallah we will be doing that lesson, motion in a straight line, in that. So while it is happening, so I hope you will be receiving the posters. So with that you can, if you want, you can join. Yeah, we will be doing that in that 1 month seminar, right? Which we will be completing all physics lessons from grade 10. So motion in a straight line is one of that lesson. So anyways, we will be doing that. Included in theory class in the sense? No. It is not the part of a theory class. It is like usually it will happen on Thursday, right? Yeah. So theory, for the theory class student, it is going to be free, and for the external student, they have to pay around 500 for the fee. Probably, I am not sure about the amount, but they have to pay a small amount and join. For theory class student, it's going to be free. So if they join the theory class, whatever the free classes that I keep extra, that is going to be free for them. So it's like that. Do it, children. I want you all to try. And the male reproductive part is very small. We have to discuss that. You send a message to my WhatsApp number, right? This is my number. I'll type and send because I took the phone to my hand. This is my number. You can leave a message and I will be letting you know. Try the questions. I want you all to try. Everything is taught to you. The only thing is you have to write it. So leave a message to my number. I'll send you the recording. Once it is done, I will be sending. And I'll send you the link to the group as well for the link which you need to the theory class is 1000. If it is grade 10, it is 1000. If it is grade 11, it is 1000. And for the paper class, it is 750. If you are joining the grade 11 theory class and the past paper class, you have to pay 1005 in total. If you are joining all three classes, you have to pay 2500. That is how it is charged. And tomorrow also we have a free session. We are starting electromagnetism and electromagnetic induction. So the introductory, the first part of the lesson will be done for free. You all can join and learn. Right. I think the time is enough. We can discuss the questions. What you learned so far and if you all have wrote it down. Wow, some children have done the work. Good. Really happy about it. So we'll discuss. We'll start. Right? So I'll say from my mouth, you all check, have you all written? Okay, so if not, it take some time to write it. Okay? So we have to start from ovary. Give me a minute. Give me a minute, children. Right. So check your answers, right? So ovary, what you have to talk about ovary now, this is they don't actually ask you to describe the main parts, but as for our understanding, I have given this, right? So what is going to happen in ovary? First of all, you have to tell there is a pair of ovary. In the ovary, they contain primary follicle, Graafian follicle, and production of ovary will happen, and corpus luteum and corpus albicans is present in the ovary, right? So production of ova is started from the birth of a female in the ovary. Okay, it is starting from the ovary. That is, if you have written such an idea, that is enough. Okay, right. So then what is the next one? The next one is fimbria. So why fimbria is important? In order to transfer the ova from the ovary to the fallopian tube, right? Then the fallopian tube, right? The next one is fallopian tube, right? So what do you tell about the fallopian tube? When the ovary, so not to the ovary, when the ovum is released out from the Graafian follicle, from the ovary, it is sent through the fimbria, by the help of fimbria, to the muscular tube, which you call it as the fallopian tube, right? Such an idea, if you have written, that is enough, right? Then about uterus, you can tell the fallopian tube is connected to the uterus, and there are three parts of uterus, which is fundus and fundus body and cervix. You have to tell that, and that is enough, right? What are the activities done in the female reproductive system? What is happening in the female reproductive system? That means they are asking about the function, right? They are asking about the function. what is happening that? So there are primary follicle, and the primary follicles are developed as the Graafian follicle. Then the Graafian follicle is blasted out and they will release the ovum, right? And from the ovary, the ovum is sent to the fallopian tube by the fimbria. So that is what you have to write under that. That is a activities done in the female reproductive system, right? Then what is meant by the menstrual cycle? What do you call as a menstrual cycle? So menstrual cycle is the cycle that is associated with the reproductive system of female, right? That is the cycle. Every month, what happens in female's body, in the female's reproductive system, that you call it as the menstrual cycle. Then the process of menstrual cycle associate with two locations. What are they? It is in ovary. The changes take place in ovary and changes take place in uterus, right? So then when you talk about the changes that take place in ovary, that is going to be what? There are two changes, right? There are two changes. Here is going to be what? Follicular phase and luteal phase. So under follicular phase, what are you going to write? So that is the initial phase, and after the FSH hormone, which is released by the pituitary gland, the primary follicle is developed as a Graafian follicle. So that takes about 14 days. During that time period, hormone called estrogen is released. You can tell that, right? So then in the luteal phase, so I'm just giving an idea what you have to be written, okay? So if you have missed anything, ask me, I'll tell you, right? So then in the luteal phase, what is happening? There is a final phase that is taking place in the ovary. So the matured Graafian follicle, the matured Graafian follicle will bust out and the egg will be released. So the remaining part of the Graafian follicle, which is called as the corpus luteum and the corpus albicanus, will fade out. Then the egg will be transported to the fallopian tube by fimbria. So this take about 14 days. So while this process is happening, they will release progesterone, right? So in ovary only, that is done. Okay, they will start to release progesterone, right? So then the changes that take place in the uterus, you have three. The first A is the menstrual phase, B is proliferational phase, C is secretory phase. So in menstrual phase, what is going to happen when the ovum is sent from the fallopian tube to the uterus? It will tear the wall of uterus and come out as a it will bleed out through the vagina, that you call it as a menstrual flow, right? So while this process is happening, this is done when the progesterone level is decreased, okay? Then in B, which is the proliferational phase, what is going to happen? That is a second phase, okay, the middle part, okay? So since the wall of uterus is broken, they are damaged, in order to rebuild that, estrogen will come and be in contact with that. So therefore, it will be rebuilt, and it will take around 10 days to do that, okay? Then what is going to happen in the secretory phase? In the secretory phase, which is a final phase, in order to strengthen the uterus wall, or in order to thicken the uterus wall, progesterone will be acting on it. So therefore, progesterone will be acting on it, which will take around 14 days for this process. So that is the final phase. Understood? Did you all write until that? So the idea should be written, right? The idea should be written. So all this time I was drawing and explaining. So if you have written that, great. Have you all written that? Let me know. Have you all done that work? Yes or no? So whatever, it is all about what you wrote, right? What you learned so far. So that is why I'm not just re-explaining again, because it will consume time. So therefore, I'm just telling from my mouth. So if you have the idea what you have written, that is enough. Okay. Yeah. Right. Then what is the next one? Describe the process of fertilization. Okay, what is it happening in the fertilization? When the matured ovum. Now remember one thing, in order to undergo sexual reproduction, the organism should be mature, right? A 5 years old girl baby cannot give birth to a baby, right? That is not possible in a normal scenario, right? It is not possible. Why? The girl is not mature. So when will she become mature? After attaining the puberty. That is the indication that we can find it out. Okay, this girl is eligible to give birth to a baby, right? That is the indication. Okay, so therefore always remember the gamete should be mature. That means the ovum or the sperm should be mature. So a 10-year boy cannot, the sperm is not, his sperm is not going to produce a baby, right? Why? He is not matured. So his body is not matured. So when will he become matured? After attaining the secondary sexual characteristic. That is a sign, right? After, like, what his the some boys voice will change, most of the people's voice will change. Then the shoulders will grow wider, the hair will be grown on the face, so those kind of thing will happen, right? So those are called as a secondary sexual characteristic. So that is where you can understand, okay, this boy is matured enough to give birth to a baby, right? But don't try in this age. Okay, this is not the age. Even though the scientifically they tell, okay, once you are attained the puberty, you can give birth. But according to the society, or mental maturity is important than the body maturity. Mental maturity is important. So if you are able to give a birth to a baby, you should be able to think how to treat the baby, or how to, like, run the family. So those kind of things are there. So don't think about that sort of a thing now itself. This is not the age, right? So don't fall into that trap. Okay. So the process of fertilization. I forgot to tell the process actually. Okay. So when the matured ovum is the matured ovum is fused with the matured sperm. So that process you call it as fertilization. It should be matured. If not, the process will not be successful. Right. The materials exchange from mother to fetus. What is that? Oxygen. Better y'all give me the answer. I was talking for so long, right? Come on, children. Let me ask people. Farik. Okay, I'll ask one by one. Okay, let's go like that. Farik, can you tell me one material that can be exchanged from mother to fetus? Are you there? Can I get the answer soon? Farik. Hannah, can you tell me? I think Hannah was a girl who unmuted earlier. Can you tell me?
Nutrients, oxygen,
Very good. Good job. Then the next one. What are the materials that cannot be exchanged from mother? Not from mother to fetus. It should be the fetus to mother. Right? Change it. Just now I saw the error. Right? It should be fetus to mother. Okay? It should be changed. Here should be the fetus, here should be the mother. Change it. Right. So, whom shall I ask? Ikma, can you tell me one material?
Blood.
Okay. So wait, have I missed a question over here? No. Okay. Right. So then, explain the process of childbirth that I told you I will give you, right? So it should be the same. Everyone, if you all write the same thing, that is better, right? So look here. I will show you how to write it. Give me a minute. Right. So the process of childbirth, right? So when the baby is inside the mother's womb, that means the uterus, so the baby will be grown, right? So at a point the baby should come out, right? So baby should come out through the vagina. Baby should be coming out through the vagina, right? Vagina of the mother, right? So when the baby, now the baby's head and the wall of uterus, the bottom part of the uterus should be fixed. Now imagine this is the uterus, right? This is the vagina, this is the opening part, and this is the vulva, right? So the baby's head should be connected very closer to the uterus, right? So when the contraction of the muscles of the uterus, when they contract, the baby's head will come out through the vagina, right? So that process you call it as a childbirth. What is that? This is the wall of uterus. That means that this is uterus, right? So the baby's head, this curve is a baby's head, right? It should be very closely attached to the mother's uterus wall. This line part, it should be connected, right? So when this wall, the muscles get contracted. What is contraction? Coming closer. This type of a thing that you call it as a contraction, right? So when it contracts, when the muscle contracts, the force is given towards this side, right? Then the baby's head will come out through the vagina. That you call it as a childbirth. Now how do you write that? Write in this way as I write it, right? That is a short explanation that I give you. Normally they don't question about childbirth, but as a teacher I should teach it, right? So fetus head fetus head in the uterus should be turned towards the vagina so then continuation, fetus will pushed outside through vagina by the contraction of muscles of uterus. This process you call it as the childbirth. Okay, so make sure you write this down. Right. So then this should be the pituitary gland. Changes to pituitary gland. What are the hormones that is secreted? FSH, LH. Okay, FSH and LH. Testosterone, progesterone, estrogen, all are secreted by the pituitary gland. Right? Testosterone we will be studying on the male reproductive system. And the sexually transmitted disease are AIDS, such a harmful disease. AIDS. Sexually transmitted disease means if the male is having that disease, the female also, when they are having a sexual relationship, that can be transmitted to the wife as well, for the female as well. So that is, you call it as a sexually transmitted disease, right? AIDS, what is herpes, then what else? Gonorrhea, then syphilis, right? So these are some sexually transmitted disease, right? Let's quickly discuss about the male reproduction, such a small part. We can discuss it with the diagram which I have given over here itself. Right. So now this is the female. Now look at the screen. Okay, look at the screen. Right. I'm going to explain it with the screen because if I draw it, it will take more time. Right. So now we are going to talk about the male reproductive system. This is the structure. Do you have to remember this structure? No, not necessary, because they don't. So far from 2016 to 2024, they have not questioned about the structure of the male reproductive system. So it is such less probability. But if you know that, that is better. But I'm not telling you that you must know it, right? So, but when it is coming to female reproductive system, you should be very thorough with that, because normally they ask you in essay question. Either if they at least missed in that part, they will ask you in MCQ. Every year you have question related to female reproductive system. So the entire process, the entire part, you should be knowing it. Okay, right. So now this is a female reproductive structure, right? So in female reproductive structure or the female reproductive system, there are around 5 main parts. There are 5 main parts. The first part that we are going to talk for today is, the first part is the testes, right? This is the first part that we are going to talk, testes, right? So there is a pair of testes. Now similarly, the female has a pair of ovary. Similar to that, the male has a pair of testes, right? So then in that there is a sac-like thing, a sac, right? That you call it as the scrotum. That you call it as what? Scrotum. You have the testes. Attached to testes, there is a sac-like thing which you call it as the scrotum, right? So why this scrotum is important? The scrotum is where it is found outside the body, right? The sac-like thing you can find outside the body. Why? Because the sperm is produced, or in other words, sperm is found in there, right? They are stored in that place, in the scrotum. Therefore, in order to have a healthy production of sperm, the temperature should not be high. The sperm cannot manage the temperature of the body. So therefore, in order to make them to grow healthy, they are the structure is placed outside the body. So that is the reason why scrotum is outside the body, right? Then what do you have to study? Then you have to study about the pair of epididymis. Oh, here you have there is a pair, you call it as the epididymis, right? Epididymis means where you need them to store the sperm temporarily, right? In epididymis, what is happening, children? The sperm is stored temporarily, right? So then what is the next one? Then you have the vas deferens. Okay, vas deferens is done, like it is like literally connected, which connects the epididymis and the which brings, actually it is a tube, like a small tube, which brings the sperm to the epididymis. Okay, which brings the sperm to the epididymis. Okay, then what you have? Pair of seminal vesicle. Now you have as a seminal vesicle. Okay, here you have the seminal vesicle, right? What is happening in the seminal vesicle? So that will produce a white color fluid. right? A white color liquid is produced from the male. It is produced a white color fluid that is done in the seminal vesicle. It is done in the seminal vesicle, right? It is produced by the seminal vesicle. Then what do you have? Then you have the what? Then you have to know that when this white fluid and the sperm get mixed, you call it as the seminal fluid or semen. Okay, you call it as a seminal fluid or the semen. That is what is being ejected to the female's reproductive system, right? From that you will have, like, when you have 1 milliliter of semen, okay, you have around millions of sperm. Okay, in 1 milliliter of semen you can have around millions of sperm. Okay, that one sperm, out of these millions of sperm, one sperm only will be interacted, right? It should go into the cell, into the egg, right? Not everyone will do that. Not all sperm can do that. On the way, like while it is traveling itself, some will die, and which will win the race is the one who go and fused with the cell. Not the cell, the egg, right? That you call it as a seminal. Then what else you have to know? Again, look here. First of all, you have to talk about a pair, right? Testes is where you have a sac-like thing, which you call it as the scrotum, where they store the sperm, right? Then they are found outside the body in order to have a healthy production of sperm, because they can't they can't bear the temperature of the body. So therefore, they are placed outside the body. That's something like an external structure, right? It is not an internal structure. Female reproductive system is an internal structure where you can find it inside the body. But male reproductive system is an external structure, right? Then epididymis is a place where you store the sperm temporarily. Temporarily it is stored in there, right? Then vas deferens is the tube which carries the which carries the sperm to the epididymis, which carries the sperm to the from the epididymis. Okay. Then you have penis, right? Penis is used. I forgot to teach about that, right? Penis is used to eject the sperm to the female reproductive system, right? Where the vagina and the penis should be interconnected. So that is where the sperm, the semen, will be sent inside the female reproductive system, right? So that is the purpose of penis, right? That is why penis is used. Okay, so that is what you have to know, right? Then the seminal vesicle will produce a white color fluid. This white fluid with the sperm, you call it as the what? You call it as the semen or seminal fluid. So in 1 milliliter of semen, you can find millions of cells. So out of that, one sperm is going to fuse with the egg for the month. So that is where pregnancy will be, fertilization process will be occurring. Understood? Clear? Any doubt? This is a very small part. You have to know what I told only. Nothing much. Nothing else that is important. Like, that is how they have given in the book. That is all they have given. Nothing else. Did you all understand? Any doubt? Any doubt, children? Anyone has a doubt, let me know. Did you all understand the part? This is a very small part. Only few features you have to remember, not features, the functions, right? You have to know the functions of this circled part. That is enough. Understood? Okay. So we'll quickly do this work. Oh, here also I have given ABC. Right. I don't know how did I forgot to name them. Mark A as right? A is going to be testes. B is going to be epididymis, right? C is going to be vas deferens, right? Vas deferens. And D is going to be seminal vesicle. Have I given E? Yeah. E is going to be penis. Can you write whatever I told you, children? Write it down. Make sure you do it because that is where you will learn. Right? Don't think blindly. Don't believe when you like. Okay, I learned the lesson, but actually you're not. Maybe you're not. Right? When you will understand whether I understood or not, when you write that, when you close your book, when you stop listening to someone says, and when you recall things, then only you will understand actually whether did you understand or not. Right? Maybe while I'm telling, okay, I know this, you might think that. But when I tell you to write, you might not know what to write. So in order to avoid that, that is why I tell you to do the work on time. Right? That is a way of teaching and that is a way of studying as well. So I can't just load all the works to you. At the end of the day, if you didn't do anything, that is going to be a waste. So I don't want you to do that. Step by step, we have to move forward. Right? So do that. That's a very small part. You can do it. Right? And then we have some below questions as well. Then the function. Right? The function of the male reproductive system is two. There are two functions. Right? Production of sperm and ejecting it to the female's reproductive system. That is one function. Right? You have the sperm production and the sperm is like deposited in the female reproductive system. That is a function of male reproductive system. Right? Then the next one is a producing, secreting testosterone hormone. Right? That hormone is the male hormone. Now you have for the female estrogen and progesterone. Similarly, male has the hormone which you call it as a testosterone. If a female has the testosterone higher, okay, having more a high value of testosterone in the body, they will start to have the male characteristics like growth of beard or voice can change, something like that. If the male is having more production of estrogen or progesterone, growth of breast can happen. Then what else? Some voice can change. So those kind of things. So that is how the transgenders are formed, right? Due to the hormone imbalance, they're not regular ones. So like what they are supposed to have, if they don't have it, so that is what transgender. That is how transgenders are formed. That is just an idea, right? So do you know that obesity? You know what is obesity? Overweight. Overweight can increase your estrogen level. So that means if a boy is overweight, so he will have the female characteristics like growth of breast, changes in voice, so loss of beard. So some sort of changes can happen due to obesity. So therefore, make sure you're conscious about your body weight as well. Your body weight should be proportional. Like someone, it should be like your BMI should be correct for your age and for your height. So hopefully you all are considering about it. Do it. And once the class is over, make sure to send a feedback so then I will be knowing whether you all understood the lesson or not, what should be done next. So I can decide based on that. Alright, shall we discuss, children? That was a very small part to write, right? While I was talking itself, you would have done the work. Shall we discuss or need more time? What do you think? Good. There are some children who have done the work. Very good. So we'll wait for 2 more minutes, right? I'll just quickly tell you what you have to read, what you have to be written, and then we'll wind up the class. Yeah, next week we will be starting hydrostatic pressure, the next lesson. Same time, it will happen on Friday at 7 p.m. Usually I end at 9, but it's now 9. We'll be 9:50. So we'll complete the work without keeping it. And I hope that you have understood the human reproduction, right? If you have any doubt, you all can ask me, or while you are revising once again, like while you are revising, going through the book, if you have any doubt, you can leave a message. I will help you out. So whatever related to science, you can ask me, and definitely I will be helping. One more minute. Quickly write it. All right. We'll discuss. Right? We'll discuss. Copper gland is called as a seminal vesicle. That is another name. So normally they use the word seminal vesicle, but rarely they use such terms. But yeah, it is the same term. For the same structure, they have different names. Okay, so we discuss, right? So A, what did I tell you? A is testes, right? What am I going to tell about testes? So testes, there is a pair of testes. Then you have a scrotum. You have to tell scrotum about that. Under that you have to talk about scrotum, because scrotum is a part of testes, right? It is like connected, right? Scrotum is where you can find the sperm, right? So why do you find scrotum outside the body? Because in order to have a healthy production of sperm, where it can't manage or bear the temperature of the body, so therefore it is placed outside the body, right? Then B is epididymis. Epididymis will store the sperm temporarily, right? Epididymis will store the sperm temporarily. Then C is what? Vas deferens. So vas deferens will take the sperm from the epididymis, right, to the penis. Okay. Then D is seminal vesicle. Seminal vesicle will release a white color fluid that is what will happen in seminal vesicle, right? Then in E, what is E? Penis. So penis is used to eject the seminal vesicle to the female reproductive system. Okay, so if you all have written that, great. Okay, so hopefully I am trusting y'all that you have done the work. Okay, so it's for your own good. I'm not going to get anything out of it if you even write or not, but it is for you, right? A guidance should be given. That is why I'm telling you. Okay, what is seminal fluid? Seminal fluid is a fluid, a white color fluid with sperm, that you call it as seminal fluid. So attached to that, in 1 milliliter of seminal vesicle, there is about millions of sperm. At that idea as well, it doesn't mean for a one time if you are ejecting to the female reproductive system, there is only one sperm entering the female body. No, it is not like that. There are thousands and millions, but in the path of going, the journey of reaching the egg, reaching the ovum in the fallopian tube, most of the day, 99% or sometimes 100% of the sperm can die. So if 100% of the sperm dies in the seminal fluid, that means they are not going to, the girl is not going to be pregnant, right? Fertilization process does not happen, right? So if one sperm goes and get fused with the female gamete, then the fertilization process will take place, right? So what are the functions of male reproductive system? Production of sperm and ejecting it to the female reproductive system is one of the function, and the other one is production of or secretion of testosterone hormone, right? So we have come to the end of the free session, right? Did you all understand? Right now I just wanted to have a clarification whether did you all understand or not, because for more than 2 hours I'm like non-stoply talking, and I just wanted to have a clarification. Did you all understand, children? Anyone has a doubt? Anyone? Anyone? All understood? All clear? Let me know, children. I just wanted to know. Oh, you're sending it to the host. Please don't send it to the host. I will not be seeing it. Anyone has a doubt? Right. So, satisfied of what you learned? Right. That is the only thing that I wanted. Right? Seminal vesicle is the part which releases a white color fluid. Seminal fluid means the white color fluid plus the sperm, you call it as a seminal seminal fluid. Got it? Okay. So thank you so much for joining and had a great time with you all, right? So yes. So we'll look forward for more sessions like this. So hope I'm satisfied with what the work which I did today. And yeah. So if you have any doubt, you can leave a message to my WhatsApp number. Even the class is over, even while you're studying, you can contact me. I will be helping you out without any hesitation, right? So if possible, leave a feedback so that I will be happy of my work, what I did for 2 hours, right? Okay. So thank you so much, children, for joining and staying here for like more 19 minutes, because the class ends usually at 9, but I took some extra time. I'm sorry for it. And good night. Bye. Assalamualaikum. You can leave if you have any doubt. You can ask me or you can send me in the WhatsApp as well. Right? Bye. See you in the next class. Take care. Good night.